Difficult one, this one. Have you had a loved one take their own life? What impact did it have on you and your family? A woman from Worthing runs training courses in suicide prevention following the death of her son. Now, Ann Feloy's son, Oliver, had graduated from university with a first in history just 6 months before he died. And Ann joins us on the programme now. Ann, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's one of those topics, it's so hard to talk about, one of those areas we shy away from, but it happened in your family, it happened to your son. Tell us about him.
Yes, well, thanks, Sarah, for having me on the programme. And yes, it's always a joy and also a pain to talk about this, but I have lost my wonderful son Oliver to suicide, and it was life-changing. That was 4 years ago on 14th of February 2017, and I'm from Worthing, and we have a loving family. He had a fantastic life, went to Christ Hospital School, had a gap year, travelled around the world, so many friends, and yet, it happened to us, and it's devastating. But I did feel that I wanted to create as positive a legacy in his memory, and so the training courses are just part of that. The charity I set up with his friends is called Olly's Future, and trying to equip others with the skills I wish I'd had to help my son when he rapidly went downhill is what I'm trying to do now.
It's so difficult, isn't it? Because at the sort of age he was, children are, they've got their own lives. They don't necessarily share everything with their parents. And from the sounds of it, he had everything to live for.
Yes, indeed. And I think that's one of the myths about suicide. People tend to think that, they must be lonely or sort of have suffered and struggled through life and then eventually got to that point. And yet actually, there is no blueprint for the sort of person that could take their life. What we need to do is to normalise the conversation and actually be able to talk about it, and then to help those people when you do ask if someone is feeling having thoughts of suicide, to then signpost them or get them the help they need to stay safe for now, for that moment. And these are things that everybody could learn. It's not just down to the medical profession to step in. It's all of us, and that is one of the things that's so important. It's my mission, really, to help others, to equip them with those skills.
Because, of course, if bereavement through suicide leaves you not only with the terrible, terrible grief of losing someone unexpectedly, but also, as you said, you're trying to equip people with skills, because I suppose you're looking back and thinking, well, was there anything that could have been done? Could a conversation have been had? You've got all those what ifs and buts.
Yes, indeed. And you're right. I mean, I think one of the things that people aren't aware of is that, if you're bereaved through suicide, then you're at 65% greater risk yourself of ending your life. The impact is enormous on those loved ones left behind. Yes, there is this... there are facts and figures around this. The Samaritans believe that 1 in 20 people at any one time might be having thoughts of suicide. That's a huge number of people. And yet, even though we're far more open about mental health now, which is wonderful, and I've seen that in the last 4 years, really. The change has been enormous that we're talking openly. People still aren't sure or don't want to ask the question about suicide, for all those sort of reasons that are understandable, such as what if I make it worse, or if I ask the question about suicide, will it put that idea into their head? So these are some of the skills, the sort of tools that we can use through this training to set aside those fears and actually be able to ask and help someone. I became an assist trainer about a year after I lost my son, so that's applied suicide intervention skills training, and that is an excellent training. But during COVID, that's not that's not been able to take place. It's a 2-day training, and of course people don't have that time. So in setting up Talking About Suicide 10 Tools, that's online, and the person I developed that with is a Brighton lady, so Rose Allett, and she and I have actually reached out to, we've taught about 1,500 people all around the world because we can do it online. So, and in fact, we have a session today, so I don't know if our listeners might be interested in joining that. It's free. Any donation goes to Olly's future, but I can certainly give you more information about that. That's 4 o'clock today.
We'll give details of that, but towards the end. And actually, was it, because obviously, as you say, this has become almost a mission for you. You want to stop other people going through what you've been through. Yes. But there must have been moments in your life when you just want to kind of almost close the door on it and not talk about suicide and not talk about the incredible pain that you yourself have been through.
Yes, and, there's times when, there's certainly boundaries that I've set up to protect myself because even though I don't have any mental health issues, and certainly my son didn't seem to until everything got too much within about the space of 5 weeks. So I sort of wouldn't say I haven't got a history of depression, and yet I felt suicidal because of losing my son. That's the sort of that's how low it can go, and yet I've learned I can deliver the training. We've got so many initiatives, wonderful initiatives and awards in Oliver's name. We've been working with the medical students at Brighton and Sussex Medical School, rolling this training out to them, 890 in the first year, and that's ongoing. And we've done work with local GP surgeries. But yeah, I can't. When I know that I'm going down, I stop, and I've got wonderful people around me to support me, my husband, my other son Samuel, and all my friends. So that's something that that we can learn ourselves as well, when to look at the signs, when to see and understand your own self as well, and your own mental well-being. That's so important. I couldn't do this job, I couldn't do this work if I were in any vulnerable state. So, yeah, it takes strength and it takes love as well. I do it for the love of my son.
And actually it's a real sort of tribute to him. It's something keeping his name alive. And, you talk about him as a wonderfully kind person, dynamic, charismatic. He would have contributed a lot to the world. And I suppose you just want to carry that on in his name.
That's exactly right. And I feel fortunate and I feel blessed to have had Oliver as my son, and fortunate to be able to do this work because it's making the most out of a terrible tragedy. And yeah, I've been able to continue his name. I mean, the name of our charity, Olly's Future, it's his future. I'm surrounded by so many of his friends, and we're all on that journey together. And we've even set up awards like the UCL Altruism Award. He was always putting other people first. And he's so kind, and to have an award in recognition of that is amazing. So it's the best I can do. It's all I can do really to go forward in this world without him. I hope other people in my position have the support that I have and the ability to go forward and see into the future, because it's horrendous. It's terrible, and you've somehow got to get there and keep going for the others in your life.
It's incredible what you're doing though, because you no one can take away your loss, but what you're really trying to do is stop that loss happening to somebody else in the future, which is a very selfless thing to do.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm always sort of embarrassed and a bit humbled by that when people say that, but I don't feel I have any choice, Sarah. I just feel I was given this role. I have a great sense of, I have developed more of a faith as well, more of a deeper spirituality because of this, because of the insight. I think you do get that with loss. And for a long time, I think I lived with one foot in this world and one foot in the next world. It felt like that because, and that's the sort of where you can feel torn, and that's that whole thing about wanting to be somewhere else and to join your loved one. But, we are given this precious life to live, and finding the best way of doing that is all we can hope to achieve, I think. And I think my work with Olly's Future, with some amazing people that are in this world. I used to be a teacher. I've written plays. I wrote The Four Men, which was based on Sussex and the Hilaire Belloc. So my life was completely different. I didn't work in mental health. I certainly didn't work with the NHS or Mind or any of the organisations I do now. So it's been a completely different lifestyle the last 4 years. The last person I think would be, anyone would expect from me, I'm such a sort of fun-loving, out-there person, is to be working in the world of suicide prevention, but that's where I find myself. So,
and actually, talking about the changes in your life since this, there is obviously it's very difficult to think of anything positive that could come out of this situation, but actually a remarkable friendship as a result of the woman, the person who was due to give birth to her first child, who reported this to the police.
Yes. I mean, what a wonderful gift that was. My dear friend Jo, who's probably listening in now, she lives around the corner, and my son died at home, and so she was about 5 days before she gave birth to her first child, Scott. She actually phoned the police, was put in that position of phoning the police, and because the back of her house looks on the back of ours. And what an amazing person, not to just think, right, I want to leave, I don't want anything to do with this. In fact, we've become such good friends, and I love her children dearly. She's got Scott, who's 4, so he's always going to be the age that I've lost Oliver. And another little son called Alex, who's now 2, and her and her husband Rob, they have just been the most amazing friends and support and love, and I feel Oliver brought us together. So what an amazing final gift to me.
I've spoken to people in the past who've been bereaved through suicide, who've talked about people walking away and being so uncomfortable with it that they don't want to talk about it. So for this friendship to evolve, for Jo to be there when she was, new mum herself, that's quite remarkable.
Oh, yes. I mean, she's a remarkable person. She really is. And, yes, it is an amazing story, really, in its own right. And, I think of them as... I now have my own grandson, which is wonderful. My son Samuel met a lady called Deanna, and they have Magnus. So, life does move on, and we have to take the blessings when we can, I feel. And certainly having Jo round the corner and being able to pop in on her and her children has been wonderful. And now my son has moved to Worthing. They were in London because of COVID. They got out of London and came down here. So, how life changes, how things can change in an instant. And I think we just have to treasure things like friendship, beautiful sunny days, things like that. I've learned that through the loss.
Do you know, really. It's really inspiration talking to you now. Just tell us, you said there's a session on today. How do people, and it's free, how do people find out more?
Yes, they can go to the website, Olly's Future, and that's OLLY_S, Olly's Future, or they can just book their place by going to talkingaboutsuicide.eventbrite.com. And if they go to that, they will see that they can book a place. And as I say, these are open. We do a monthly open session, so anyone can book onto that. Sometimes we do them for men only. For example, we've got Men's Health Week coming up. One of the things that we learn is that these training sessions, they're normally full of women, and yet it's the men. 3/4 of all, 75% of all deaths by suicide are by men, and yet it's still such a hard slog to get men learning these skills. So we're doing five sessions on men during Men's Health Week, which is June the 14th. But today's one is open to anyone. So yeah, we'd love to see them on that. It's 90 minutes, and there's a little break as well. So it's very safe. Lots of safeguarding there as well.
Well, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much for joining us on the programme. Really inspiration to hear what you are doing at the moment, and thank you for sharing your story.